Everyone, Jerry has been a long time friend, many, 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 many years, right? And I just love him with all of my heart. He's done so much uh, just as a friend. He's a fantastic musician, plays a couple of instruments. He's a producer. He's also a powerful slang term. We call him Mr. Fireman and Superman, right? So if you get in trouble with anything with the three-letter agency, Jerry is the guy to call. I trust him with our life, and there's been so many people in the entertainment industry and in business. He just has tons of powerful, powerful clients, and so he goes way back, and he's done just an enormous amount of job. In between all of this, uh, which he surprised me with some years ago, Jerry went out and got his pilot license as well. And so he has several, and that's way above my pay grade, but he does a CFI, CFII, MEI, IGI, a C-Pilot. He's been doing all kind of stuff, just flying all over the place. So, uh, it's miraculous. I mean, he is a super inspiration for me, and he's really an example of a young, well, not so young so more, but you still kind of young.
A little younger than you, right?
You're a little bit younger than me, but of a great African American male who has come through and just done a lot for himself, right? So, uh, Jerry, thank you for coming on. I just asked Jerry if he would. This is real informal. If he would just. Oh, he speaks three languages too. I'm sorry, Chinese, Spanish, and German. Did I get that right?
No, Spanish, Russian, and Chinese.
Wow. Okay.
And you can't forget Ebonics, right?
Ebonics too. That's right. So Jerry, let me know about that. He could go there
You can't
with
leave
you.
that one. You can't leave that one out, man.
So, I asked Jerry if he would just come on and just talk about his journey, his life, ask him to talk about some asset protections because we're doing a lot in the development side, Jerry,
Right.
and some other things that we are in some spaces of, and so we're looking at a lot of things. I want them to know about your services, and when I tell you that I trust Jerry with my life, I really mean that. I seriously mean that. He's just a dear, dear friend. So, Jerry, I'm gonna shut up,
All
and it's
right.
you, dear brother.
Well, nice to meet everybody. I want to thank Laycon for thinking so much of me. I don't know why, but I appreciate that. I invited my mother and father. They're online with us now. I thought it was very important that they be on here because they are the biggest part of my story. And I'll start from the beginning. When you look at anything that can be good or prosperous or grow, you've got to start from good soil. Okay. It's like a plant. When you grow a plant and you want to grow a really powerful, beautiful plant, you got to have good soil. Okay. So in my life, my good soil was my parents. Okay. And I can go on and on so many things I could tell you, but just in summary, my parents have been the good soil in my life. And they're the reason why I can excel in what I do because you got to have a great foundation. And they've been a good soil, not just for me, but my two sisters, my niece, nephew, and so forth. So they've been very instrumental. And I'm not just saying that. I tell them this all the time. They're some of the best parents that I could ever have. The support, the love, and it starts there. You got to start with good soil. If you don't have good soil, you're not. It's very difficult to grow a beautiful plant in bad soil. Okay, what I mean by that is your environment. Okay, this is my kind of my philosophy, way I think about things. There really is no such thing as a stupid person. Okay, what it is, what's stupid is the environment. Give you an example. You see all the rich kids and so forth, people who have money and means, putting their kids what? In the best situations, best schools, best neighborhoods. That's all good soil. Okay. So those kids end up, being, who they are. Some of them have good aptitude, some of them are average. It depends. But you start off with good soil. And stupidity is really a product of the environment. I give you an example. Let's suppose you have two children. You put one in a very good, prosperous environment, learning where everything is nurturing. You put another kid in a less environment, and you watch those kids grow up. And what happens is you see the development and you see how opportunity and so forth tends to lean in the favor of the person who is in the best, say, soil position. Okay, good soil. Other person could be in a bad neighborhood, bad schools, bad food. So right there, you have the foundation is very weak on that side of things. In my life, I had good soil, and like I said, that's why I believe I can prosper. Prosper and learn and so forth. Plus, you got to have everybody has aptitudes and so forth. So people have different affiliations. Some people are good in music, some are good in math, some are good in English or whatever. So, with that being said, my journey, well, I'm from New York, born in New York. My mom's from North Carolina, my dad's from New York City. And that union formed our family. I was primarily raised in California. I left New York when I was about 5 or 6. Anyway, excuse me. So, but looking at my family lineage, oh man, no one gets anywhere by themselves. I had some bad folks in my family, man. Awesome. Starting with my mother, back in the day, my grandmother was educated. So was her father. They came from the South. Okay. My father's father was a hell of an entrepreneur, businessman. I mean, his mother died when he was 12, but he still did well, regardless of the circumstances. So you have those people in your family, and so my family lineage on my father's side, and I think I'm getting to me, but I have to start here because this is where it all starts and where it all came from. It's not just me. Okay, I come from somewhere. On my dad's side, we have found out there's a bunch of musicians. My niece can sing. She's a very, very accomplished opera singer. So the music was there. We really didn't know it in the beginning. But on my dad's side's music, Cicely Tyson is our cousin. My great grandfather and her mother were first cousins. So that kind of thing. On my mom's side, we have Billy Eckstein. Okay, it was my grandmother's first cousin. So you're looking at all the roots of where I come from. Okay, and again, good soil. So, and I'm talking mainly about my parents when they raised us. I'm gonna tell you, I couldn't have a better team. My mother, she was the academician, and still is. She made sure we were in good schools. My mother, I don't think she had a job one time because she stayed in my school so much. She stayed in my classrooms, and she was on top of all three of us. My dad guided me when I got to be a certain point in my learning progress. He guided me, and I'm gonna tell you, for example, at Morehouse, with the Morehouse College, and I didn't choose my major. My dad did, accounting, and he had been talking about accounting for a long time. Okay, we were kids, and I remember when we were growing up, my father would come in our room. We must have been about, I don't know, 6th grade, whatever it was. He was sing these songs. There was a guy on the radio called Dr. Hornaday. He was singing this song, "Time to Get Up in the Morning." Oh, what a beautiful day. And he would always leave us with a message. So, and that impacted me even at that young age. My mother, wow. I mean, school, homework, all the academic, the best schools, the best teachers. My mom was on it. So we didn't have a choice but to be successful because we had good soil. We started out on the right, on a very advantageous environment. So, and I'm just saying that because it's true. I didn't get where I am by myself. I had a lot of help. My parents, they still help me, what I mean? In different ways, but they're still there. And I'm thankful to have them both still here on this earth. It means so much to me and my sisters. But again, my progress, let's start with college, Morehouse. I remember I was going for my foreign language, and My dad asked me, what language are you taking? I said, I'm not really sure. He said, well, you're going to take Russian. That's how I started speaking Russian. It wasn't my idea. My dad told me to take it. He said, hey, man, that's going to be the best thing. Okay, I took Russian. That's why I speak Russian. My mother, I remember I had a business in Alabama. I mean, a friend of me and a good friend of mine from college, this is kind of after college. I had a trucking company. I sold that, got rid of it. A friend of mine, we went to sell beepers in Alabama. That didn't work out. So my mother, I'm on a corner. Back then, they didn't have cell phones. This payphone or it was beepers. So my mom asked me, "What are you going to do now?" I said, "I don't know. Don't you have a degree in accounting?" "Yes." "Go get your CPA." She told me what to do. I went in and I did what she asked me to do. And so I had guidance. And then looking at my background, I was very fortunate to get into a very prominent Black CPA firm. And I owe them a lot to what I know in accounting. They were so, can I put it, instrumental in my accounting career. Stuff I was doing at that time was I mean, I was in like 25, 26. Well, I was young, man. But I was doing some major accounting, major audits early in my career. And again, good soil. I had good soil even then. I didn't get here by myself. I had a lot of support. Though they put me, man, in situations and, auditing, taxes. I had a gamut of experience. And I had a friend of mine who was with, he was Ernst & Young at the time. And we were talking, yeah, man, how's your first, 3 months or so? I said, well, he said, I'm doing cash. I said, okay, cash. Okay, what else? That's it? He said, I'm doing just cash. Well, cash is the one line on a balance sheet. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing a complete audit. I'm doing the balance sheet, income statement, what? And writing a report. So right then, public accounting is so standardized. But I realized the experience I was getting. Now, the firm wasn't paying me that well. I couldn't keep my lights and gas on at the same time. So I threatened to quit. I said, Dad, I'm out of here. I'm quitting. He said, no, you're not. What's going on? I said, they're not paying me no money. He said, well, I'm going to supplement you because stuff you're doing is high level stuff. And my dad said, okay, how much you need? I think it was like $800 a month. He supplemented me, make sure I stayed at the firm to learn. He knew what I was doing. It was very, very high level. At the time I was young, I didn't realize that because other accountants weren't doing that high level stuff. But this particular firm was a very prominent African-American firm. They had offices in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. They were really solid firms. So they gave me the opportunity I never would have gotten, man. And that's what made me into who I am today as far as an accountant. So I'm telling this story because nobody gets anywhere by themselves, and I come from good soil. So I'm the product of that. Okay. I don't take all the credit. Yeah, I had to do the work, the heavy lifting. I had to study. I had to go through all the different pains of getting there. But I had good soil and I had great parenting, great support, phenomenal. Like I said, my mother, I mean, just very instrumental. She laid the foundation academically. That's why I could go forward and pass the exams and learn and so forth. But what happened was when I went to, after high school, I went to Beverly Hills, again, good soil with the Beverly Hills High School. So that was one of the best high schools at the time in the nation that my sister and I were going. And the people that were there were like, I mean, a lot of them are famous now. I went to school with Lenny Kravitz, Nicholas Coppola, who's Nicolas Cage, David Schwimmer on Friends, Daniel Spencer, Dio, What's Happening, very good friends, Slash, all these prominent people now, they're stars now. But that's where I came from. That's what the high school with. I mean, kids driving Ferraris to school. I mean, people from Persia, at the time it was Persia. I think now it's Iraq, Iran. But anyway, that's the exposure I had. Again, good soil, great schools. So fast forward to Morehouse. I get to Morehouse. My mom was very instrumental in getting me in there as well. I didn't get there by myself. My mom oversaw that, made sure I got in there. So that was when I discovered, I guess I say myself, things that I could do. Because my adolescence was rough. I've got Tourette syndrome. So I spent a lot of my childhood fighting that. beginning, no one knew what it was. I got diagnosed when I was about 14, getting ready to go to high school. Yeah, gave me Medicaid. It was a horrible experience as far as that's concerned. But we found out what it was, and therefore I had a name, thank God, because no one knew what it was for a long time. We had no idea. So with that being said, that was spent, fighting that whole thing. When I got to Morehouse, that was, I think, the beginning of really me. That's where I learned a lot about myself, not just the academia, but a lot about a lot of things. I was around wonderful musicians, again, good soil. Um, I was not playing instruments at all at 17 years old. However, I was very musical within. I never had exposure, never really took lessons, never been exposed to that. I was just sort of always creative, though, always humming stuff, but I could hear everything because when we grew up, my sister was good friends with Tina Jones, who was Quincy Jones's daughter. And I remember we used to go by his house, and I remember him calling the house one day. It's when they had the dial rotary phones. And I picked up, I was about 12 years old. I answered the phone, said, hello, who's calling? And he said, Quincy Jones. At the time, I didn't know who Quincy Jones was. I mean, I said, Mom, Quincy Jones on the phone. And she answered, and we took my sister up. But my sister would come home with all these records, Brothers Johnson, Michael Jackson, the stuff that Quincy was doing at the time. And again, it was, free and so forth. But I listened to that music all the time. My parents had music all the time. So when I got to Morehouse, I had a very good friend of mine, David Flood, who was a fantastic piano player. And we used to go up in the piano room and I hear him play. And as he was playing, I was writing lyrics. I was writing a song to it. He's like, man, how'd you do that? I was writing, I heard the music, I was writing lyrics to it. He said, man, so he encouraged me, take lessons, take lessons. So I did. I had a friend of mine told me about lessons were given downtown. I said, I went and took piano lessons. Lo and behold, man, I took to it like a duck on water. It was just there. And from there, I went to play bass. I was playing cello, flute, a lot. But then, let me sort of back up a little bit. At the time, I was taking music with the late great Rod Smith, who Lakon knows. Very instrumental in my life as a man and musical life. And Rod, I would go to Rod and say, hey man, I could hear all the instruments. I was learning how to play, but I could hear everything musically. I heard the horns, the strings, all that stuff. And I said, what is that called? He said, it's called arranging. I said, that's what I learned how to do. He sent me to this is a brilliant master of a musician, Tommy Stewart, who Lakon knows. So these are the kind of people that are in my life, early in my life. And Tommy, they thought I was his son and we hung around so much. I was in orchestras, writing music, and that kind of shaped me musically. It helped me to develop my musical prowess here. So, and that part was sort of, of course, as Lakon knows, you always develop as a musician. It never stops. It never stops. You just keep going as long as you can live. But that helped shape me musically. So all this, and I'm telling you this sort of story for a reason, because there's so many things at that time that shaped my development. It was the accounting, from academia, it was the music, being around Atlanta. Atlanta at that time was Jazz City. Oh man, there's so many clubs and stuff to hang out. And I started playing well enough. I started playing a little jazz club, little gigs, jam sessions. So I was learning. But at the same time, I was learning how to write. And Tommy recognized it. I think he and Rob both said, hey, man, you're a very gifted writer. I heard stuff I was writing. He says, man, people don't write like that. You can really write. He said, that's your gift. Yeah, you're a good musician too, but you can write. And so they've kind of encouraged me to go that direction. So I learned how to write those big band, all that stuff. And after I'd finished Morehouse, I had an opportunity to study with a very noted classical composer at Georgia State. And she opened a whole world for me musically. I was writing fugues and symphony orchestra stuff, and it was amazing. And she taught me, and she told me, she says, hey, I can't write like you. You have a gift for writing. So that all that stuff was sort of just bubbling. Okay. And of course, at the time I was doing accounting, and I was actually back and forth to Atlanta from Alabama. I was on accounting Alabama, working in Alabama, come down. I remember Lakon in the studio. I had no intentions of even being an entertainment accountant. That was never my goal. What happened is this gentleman right here, Lakon, they're in the studio. Now I remember this distinctly. I only remember this, I'm not Lakon. They had some little problem with the invoice or something. Jerry, you're an accountant, go handle that. So I went in there and the manager worked it out. Well, I got a bunch of phone calls from musicians all of a sudden. I remember there was a band called Eater's Wish who had got a deal with Arista Records. And they called me. I don't know how to go up. I guess it was Lakon. Somebody told me about me. Hey, I heard that you're an accountant. We need your help. So that was my first entertainment client. And from there, it just grew. It just grew. I had an SOS band. I worked with Parliament Funkadelic, Flying Family Stone. It just snowballed. Again, not my doing. It was just being in an environment, having good soil, and being able to have the opportunity, which is very important, and then being prepared for it. Okay, so that's where it all began. It wasn't me. I didn't aim to be. I really didn't want to be an accountant. I wanted to sell hot dogs on the beach. When I was a kid, we bought a hot dog stand, and I started a little business on the Venice Beach. That's what got me to be an entrepreneur. My dad was singing these songs and have your own business and all that stuff. All I heard. So that was sort of melted in my mind. So we found a hot dog stand. Just so happened the guy that was selling it had the same model car, Volvo, as my parents did. My dad bought a hot dog stand on Venice Beach. That's what started me in being an entrepreneur. Was that experience? And I always had money. I always had. I was making good money as a child. I mean, as a high school kid. And I remember being on the beach and remember seeing Gregory Hines. He walked and bought a hot dog from me. My little, at the time, Lenny Kravitz was hanging down there. Of course, he wasn't famous, but hey, you had a hot dog stand and that kind of thing. So that got me on the path of being a business person. That was my exposure, and I just cultivated over the years. Like I said, I mean, being an accountant and having that experience, and then other businesses. I won't get into all that. It's so much to tell. But I had different bad restaurants, trucking companies, cell phone. I mean, a bunch of stuff that taught me a lot. So as an accountant, I was not just an accountant. I had experience being in various businesses, so my understanding of business was very keen. And then working with the CPA firm, doing the auditing and all the really heavyweight accounting, that really sealed the deal. And I was at a level at a young age. I was in probably my early 30s. and I was top notch. I had a big firm that wanted to hire me in Alabama. Me and my mother kind of got into it. They offered me a job. It was Price Waterhouse Coopers, and my mom hated Alabama. She said, "The only thing that's good down there is a barbecue. Get out of there." So I didn't take the job. Went to Atlanta, and probably the best thing. Went to Atlanta, and after all that, I started my own accounting firm. Had entertainers like I have now the SOS band. They've been my clients, and a couple of producers. I kind of backed off a lot. You get to a point where you get very tired and stuff like that, so you get burnout. But in the midst of all this, after that experience, I moved to Colombia, South America. I was at the time working for Grady Hospital. I was a senior internal auditor. And there was a young lady in the elevator. I see her all the time going in the building because she worked in the same building where our offices were. And we became pretty good friends. I says, "Where you from?" She said, "I'm from Colombia." And at the time, I broke up with my girlfriend of 8 years. And she said, "You single?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Go to my country and find your wife." So I booked the flight to Colombia, went to Colombia. And man, that started me on the Latin American Spanish experience. So again, good soil. And went off to Colombia. Fantastic. I met a beautiful girl and we hung out, girlfriend. I actually bought in California and my parents met her. But that whole experience, her family, I went back and got in an apartment, was living there. And I sold my house in Lithonia. And I was back and forth from Florida. I had a friend here in Florida that had a tax business. I come help him tax season, make my money, and go back to Colombia. That's what I did for about 3.5 years. And man, that whole Spanish experience was just enriching, very enriching. So that's sort of how I became fluent in Spanish. And of course, over the years, speaking Spanish, friends, and then having clients, that were Latin Americans. Let's see. So after that experience, I, like an idiot, I bought a restaurant. That didn't do well. Again, my parents there helped me with that. They gave me money to help start that. But anyway, so like I said, they've always been there. They're here now. I mean, so it's just it never ends. And again, that's what happens when you have great parents. It just they're always with you, even at my age. Still here. They're on this call, so they're here. Anyway, what else can I say? So after that, I ended up. This is where the flying came in. I think I started. Yeah, I came back to America, started my own little accounting office, a little tax office in the Latin area because by this time I was so fluent in Spanish. So I started in there, and that's where I got a lot of Latin clients. And at the same time, I started flying lessons. What happened was there was a flight school that was in trouble, and I guess somebody knew me as far as the accounting, and they approached me. Hey, man, we got a problem, man. They got a go back tax issue. IRS is after. And that was my thing, IRS. I mean, so that was my forte, getting people out of tax trouble. That's probably what I did for entertainers, is handle taxes and got them out of tax trouble. So anyway, so I talked to them, and they said, "Look, we know that the stuff that you're going to do, we can't pay you. However, we can give you flight lessons," and that's how I became a pilot. But rewinding, I took flight lessons at 17 when I had my hot dog stand. I went out to the little airport, Grinnell Aviation, and I took a couple lessons. That's when I said, okay, I like this, but I couldn't continue. I was in high school, went to college. But anyway, they gave me flight lessons. I went through the program. I ripped right through it. Here's why. Again, having that good soil. Coming from an accounting background, not putting aviation down, it was easy for me because the stuff that I had to do as an accountant, had to learn, and the exams I had, it was no contest. So I went right through flight school, and I got my license. And I think by this time I wasn't gonna tell nobody. I said, "No, I don't tell nobody. I don't tell my mother and my father. They might be scared. Probably talk me out of it, right?" So I got my first license, private pilot license. So I said, "All right, tell my dad." I told my dad. Oh man, he was so proud. Oh, you gotta be a pilot. I said, "Yeah, I'm a pilot." Dad. He was so excited, so proud. I told my mother, they were really happy. I thought they'd be frightened. Oh, don't do that, but they were supportive again. So I started to go through the ranks. Okay, I was working on my instrument. I'm sorry. By the time I told my dad, I think I finished my private license, and I was finishing up my instrument license. I was going to my commercial and all that stuff. So my dad, man, I was struggling too, trying to pay for it on my bank account. And I looked, somebody put $5,000 in my account. My dad slipping money to me for flight lessons. Again, that support, that kind of support, man. Wow. He was just, he'd laugh. I said, "Thank you, Dad." I called, "Thank you, Dad." And I was working and paying my end, but he was slipping me money in my account, 2,000 here, 5 here, and helped me get through it. Like I said, you don't get anywhere by yourself. Those guys that I helped with the taxes, they made me, they helped me become a pilot. They were a flight school. They said, "We give you lessons. We can't pay you that high tax, for your services." But they gave me something more than money. They gave me a whole other life, And and I always try to err on the side of good. I always try to help people, never want to hurt anybody, and that pays off. It pays off. I think Laycon could attest to that. Pays off. I've helped people with major problems, didn't charge them a dime because they couldn't pay for it, but they needed my help, so I did it anyway. It was never about money with me. It's still not never about my daddy get on me about that, but but anyway, so what else? So that happened. And I eventually went up. Oh, I know. I started flying, I started doing commercial flights. I had a very wonderful gentleman in my life, Bill Meehan, who's passed away now. He was sort of he was the anchor in my aviation career. he took me around, introduced me to everybody. And see, keep in mind, I was only very few African Americans are doing this. I was only at the time only that I knew of African American pilot, maybe one or two. But I went around all his friends who were Caucasians, but they accepted me. And I think what it was, I was blowing exams away, and oh, you're a great pilot. He would talk about me behind my back, how good I was as a student, as a pilot. He'd never tell me this. His friends said, "Hey, Bill will never tell you, man, but he talks about you all the time." So they knew who I was. So a lot of those guys became my friends later and my colleagues in aviation. So that's where all the piloting. I'm kind of building the chronology up for you so you kind of understand how I got to where I am. It wasn't by myself. I had help, a lot of help, a lot of support. So people think, oh, you're this. No. I have to tell you, it was not by myself. I had support. Yes, I had to do the hard work. I had to do what I had to do to get to that point. But when you have support, it makes it a little easier. So these gentlemen, man, were just behind me and supporting me. Another very, very prominent man was Chuck Brown, who's still my good friend. He was FAA examiner. I was only African-American pilot with Tourette's. So I was very unique, man, very unique. And at the time, I remember I was going to Tampa. I was actually studying Chinese in Tampa. That's how I started studying Chinese. I was in flight school, and I was going back and forth studying Chinese. So that is, but I had to stop. It was just too much. But anyway, I went through all the flight stuff and became an instructor, and I became a master instructor. I got all the instructor ratings. I had all experience teaching. I taught in 2 academies here in Florida. They recognized me in the FAA. I had a 95% pass rate. My students were very top notch. A lot of my students now are in airlines or captain. They call me, hey man, how you doing? Hey captain, how you doing? I'm flying. I'm the captain of so and so and so and so. I mean, we're just constantly, man. I was so proud of them, man. So that part of me had touched a lot of people. I helped a lot of people, a lot of my students. I had them tell me, man, went for you, man, I wouldn't be where I am. And, I had help, but I always wanted to try to be the best I could be. And that's something for everybody. I was trying to be the best teacher, the best, whoever I could do. I did my best. Not that I was better than anybody else. I just tried to be my best. And if I fell somewhere at the top or middle, whatever, that's fine with me. It was never a contest. I guess I'll compete against myself. I think I told my dad I'd realized that I could learn any language pretty quickly. And I said, Dad, if I had time, I could learn 5 languages at one time. And I really could, because I had such understanding speaking several languages. I got a chance to understand how it works. I was also very good in English. I was a straight A student in high school English and in college. Nothing but A's in English. It was just there, and that's, I think when you speak your own language pretty well, you have a concept of language. It's like music. Grammar is the theory of language, and theory in music, that's the grammar of music. And Lacan knows. It's a whole other language. So I think that is what kind of helped me along, was those disciplines, the love and support from my parents, the environment I was with, the fantastic teachers I had in music. Lacan was very instrumental in me as well. I go to his gig, we sit there and talk, and listen to things he was doing. And it's been a plethora of just great experiences. And he could tell you the kind of cats we hung out with in music. Oh, he was some of the best cats on the planet. And to be around those kind of people, man, was just phenomenal. And on the music side, so I had the music side, the aviation side, the accounting side, and the language side. So this is how all this became a part of me. There was different episodes in my life. I didn't do all this in 1 week or 1 day, or it was over a period of time. But it was different episodes in my life that I got a chance to experience. I had, like, again, I can't say it enough, having good soil, whether it was parent upbringing, music, environment, accounting, all that stuff. So this is what led me to all this stuff. So I don't take complete credit. I just take complete credit for just doing the work. No one's going to do the work for you. No one can learn a language for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to be disciplined. That's one thing that I learned early. It was discipline. Discipline and consistency. That's what gets anything. I talk about my dad. My days would start at 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, I've been up for 4 hours. I've already studied Chinese. I practiced piano, bass, and guitar all in 4 hours. By the time 8 o'clock hits, I've done all those things in the morning. I did it religiously for a while. Every time I take breaks, it gets to be a lot to do. But my day had to start like that if I was going to keep going in that direction. Because you don't get, like I said, you have to practice whatever. As Lakon knows, music, it takes all that. Languages too. Whatever you do, you've got to work at it. It doesn't come just out of the sky. So that is sort of my journey in terms of, and I'm still continuing. I'm still learning, still doing things. That's the journey I'm taking, and that's where I am now. So that's how I got to do all these things. Didn't happen overnight. I didn't get there by myself. I have support, still have support. So, I hope that sort of gives you an idea of where I'm coming from.
Jerry is just, I mean, first of all, I have to just say again, good evening to Mr. and Mrs. Cordett. It is quite the honor to have you both here with a powerful son that you have given all of the love and honor to his parents. So just really want to thank you both for coming on. And Jerry, we're going to open it up. Henry and Denisha just sent to, and I just want to let folks know when I first met Jerry, I did not know what Tourette's was, right? And and he, Rod, and we hung out big time, and it was, he says a part of it that he's sharing, the stuff that he went through and growing by. It was nothing. I mean, we used to joke. We used to laugh all the time with Jerry, right? We'd be on a plane and if a jab come across my face, and Rob might say, all right, Jerry, one more time now. Me and you getting ready to get into it. And we would laugh. I mean, his sense of humor, I guess, is what I was saying. And then one thing I noticed with Jerry when he was dealing with it, because he's done some other health stuff that, he's experimented with that a lot, which is powerful. But I had noticed anytime he put his hands on the instrument, he wasn't doing it. And I used to ask him about that. Well, how come when you touch a bass or you put your hands on the piano, nothing happens, And we used to have that conversation sometimes, which I thought was pretty fascinating, or if we got an elevator. I think that was another thing, but to see Jerry, he's done so much. He is such a huge inspiration. And as he said, it is definitely, as he has mentioned, he's given great homage to his mother and dad, coming from powerful soil and realizing his whole mindset is about team, right? No matter what environment that he's in, he always has that team mindset and understands that that's what it takes. So I appreciate it. You also, and later on before we leave, Jerry, you mentioned that you were going to talk something about what you and your dad was talking about, GIO.
Geo Politics.
Yeah,
We discussed that.
before we go, so I wanted to open it up for some questions because Jerry can talk to you anything about, asset protection or LLCs or inks, any questions you just want to throw out to him.
Let me
In
say
terms
one
of what
thing.
you're thinking about, leave that open. Please,
Let me say
Jerry.
one thing, one quick thing. I had it's a privilege and an honor. I've had so many great musical friends, a lot of them being famous. One in particular, we were real tight, been tight for over 20 something years, Andre Simone. And me and Andre, Andre Simone, he was the bass player and his family raised Prince. A lot of people don't know this. So I go to Andre's house and I'm coming to something with this. And I would see these pictures of Prince when he was a kid on a crate and Andre and all the gang and Jimmy Jam before these guys were famous. So I asked Andre one day, I said, man, how did you and Prince get to be so awesome? He said, Jerry, that's all we did. And Andre's mother was very, very instrumental in Prince's becoming who he became. Again, good soil. They're around out of music because he was saying, man, there's so many cats that could play him and Prince on the table like that. I mean, there was some bad cats. Sonny T, Peterson family, these guys. All those wonderful environment of music. And he was just saying how he and Prince would go see Parliament. It was funny. I introduced Andre to Parliament. They go see Parliament, And he said, man, Prince, come home. Man, we got to be like that. We got to be as good as they are. And they go home and practice again, working hard. Andre's family, and you probably read Prince's story, was the Anderson family. That was Prince's foundation. That was his good soil because his whole family was musicians. Andre, his dad, I mean, sisters and all that, they were all musicians. So Prince didn't get there by himself, as bad as he was. And I say that because it's true. And I had opportunity to get to meet and know Prince on a personal level. I would consider us, I guess we were more associates. Me and Andre really friends. I just know he knows my parents, my sisters, been in my house, barbecues, birthday parties, weddings, all that kind of stuff. So, but I was talking to Prince, and we had a nice little conversation, and we talked about. I asked him. He said, "Yeah, I got Tourette's." He said, "Yeah, man, me and Andre grew with somebody with a cat that had Tourette's. He knew what it was." And he said, "Well, wow, I hear you doing a lot of good things, man." I said, "Yeah, I tried." I said, and he said, "Well, I grew up short." And he laughed. I said, "Yeah, but you're bad." I mean, we had a good laugh, man. Down to earth brother, man. Really cool, man. Really. He'd invite me when he'd come to town. He'd invite me to his concerts. He'd send somebody. Hey, man, I was in Atlanta. Somebody would call me from his camp. Hey, man, Prince, you have a couple of tickets. Come hang out with us. It was me, and at the time I was dealing with Parliament Funkadelic, some of their stuff. So I'm saying that even a guy like that, Prince, had great soil. On the music tip. Andre's family was very instrumental. A lot of people didn't know that. And that's a tribute to Andre and his family, his mother and father, and that whole nurturing part of Prince. So again, nobody gets there by themselves. Anyway, that's all I had to say there.
Thank you, man. It's wide open. Unmute your mics and share, comment. That includes you too, Mr. and Mrs. Cordett. We'd love to hear from you.
I'll just jump in for a second. And of course, Jerry, always great to see you, hon.
You too, Jacinta. All right.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much for coming on. And I just, as a mom, I just really have to acknowledge you and say thank you for all of the flowers, so to speak, that you have thrown at your parents this evening. I am positive, I have not met them, but I am positive that they are glowing and that they are basking in that love, because as parents, we always just do the best that we can. No one is perfect by any means, but there is nothing more gratifying than the children that you have poured into when they reach a certain point in their lives, and they it's almost as if they turn around and shower you back with the love and the time and the care that they put into you, yeah. And you turn around and give it back to them. So,
yeah,
that's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
And, I have to say this, my mother, man, she's accomplished. Oh my God. I mean, my mom, and that, we have good examples. Academia, man, was, like I said, again, I had good examples. My mom's a EDD PhD, 2 masters, and public health, parasitology, biology professor. I mean, all that, my dad's an entrepreneur, business person. And he used to design nuclear power plants, piping. I mean, just, you just can't get any better than that. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So, to their accolades and to their, you had great examples. They've been married 59 years. What I mean? So,
congratulations.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's extra special.
Is my mom still on here?
Yes.
It looks like
okay, good. Okay, good. So they're both accomplished. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I got to interject.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Henry, Denisha, any questions or LLCs, Incs, asset protection trust, anything you throw out to Jerry?
Actually, I do have a question real quick. Actually, I have a comment, then a question.
Sure.
So the comment is, I totally get where you're coming from, because I truly adore my parents, and I don't have them with me anymore, but the name of my LLC is actually their nicknames.
Okay.
And so I named my LLC after them. So I was like, any checks I start getting from this career that I'm embarking on, I wanted to always come in their name. I always wanted their name to live on, and I wanted to be the reason that their names live on. So I certainly respect where you're coming from with having love and respect for your parents.
Of course.
Um, the next thing is, so since we're talking about LLCs,
Mhm.
I established my LLC um,
Oh,
maybe 2, 3 years ago, and I'm still learning how to use it. I still hadn't got that check yet in the LLC. So,
okay.
but I feel it's coming soon. So I want to be able to leverage it. Um, I want to be able to um, use my LLC to my benefit, and like, what's the difference between using that as Henry Mitchell money or Snooky and Bunchy money, and how does that work so far as
Okay.
paying myself?
Okay. Well, let's start out with what an LLC really is, and it's called a limited liability company, and it is just that. Now, and I tell everybody this that sets up any entity, whether it's a LLC or S corp, C corp, partnership, proprietorship, you have to understand why you're setting things up. And there's two main reasons why people set things up. That's for liability purposes and tax purposes. Now, an LLC is a non-taxable entity. It's known what's called a flow-through entity. In other words, your business flows through the LLC, okay? And it goes into your personal return through a K-1. Okay, so now to answer your question, are you a single member or you have multiple people just by yourself?
Just myself.
Okay, the different rules. Okay, remember LLC is really it's sort of like a partnership. It's not they call them members because you can have as many members as you want to. Okay, single LLC or you have two people, and that determines how you divide up the profits and losses and how you file your taxes. But it's still a flow through. It still goes through your personal tax return. Now you got to be careful with LLCs. I tell people if you start making a considerable amount of money, remember that net profit will go on your 1040, your personal return. You're going to pay a higher rate of tax at the personal level than you would in a corporation. So you have to sort of look at what you're doing, see what you're doing financially. Because I'll give you a good example. Let's suppose you have an LLC and you do wonderful. Let's say you make $1 million. Let's say that your expenses are $500,000. Let's say that your net income is $500,000. Now that $500,000 goes in your personal tax return. And I'm telling you, from an accountant standpoint, that's real hard to shelter that kind of money. You're going to pay a lot of tax. I don't care if you had 9 kids. It's going to be very hard to shelter that money because you're going to pay a higher tax rate. So again, now you're asking how do you leverage the LLC in terms of what? I mean, what? Let me make sure I understand your question. You see,
In
how do I
term,
leverage
yeah, leverage it in terms of having that type of money to where it's not my money.
your money? Well, you should be in an LLC then. Okay, if
Okay.
you're making that kind of money, see, LLCs are good starters.
Okay.
I mean, people getting started. You might have several members, and see, that's different. LLC really, and if you had several members, now suppose you had 10 members, and you made that same income, that $500,000. Now you're splitting that 10 ways, 50,000 apiece. That's not so impactful on each return. That would make sense. But
Gotcha.
if you're by yourself in an LLC, you're making that kind of money. That's where you need to consider another entity. Okay,
Right.
because you
So
can't.
how?
It's
So,
very. Mhm.
oh, I'm sorry. So how would I protect myself just being a sole proprietor, making that kind of money to where I don't have someone able to uh, take
Come
it?
get you.
Yeah.
Well, you cannot protect yourself with proprietorship. Remember, proprietorships, you and the business are one and the same. Give you an example. Suppose you're a proprietorship and you're on a mission. Let's suppose you go out in your car and you're on a business trip or you're in business, you're handling business, and all of a sudden you get into an accident or you hurt somebody, right? Well, guess what? Guess what's exposed? The business and your personal assets, because you and the business are one and the same. Remember, I said the reason why you set up an entity is for two reasons: liability or protection and tax reasons. Those are only two reasons why people set up those entities. Those are the only things that they really do. So to answer your question, you can't protect yourself in a proprietorship because you and the business are exposed. Now, that's why you go into an LLC or C Corp or S Corp or something like that. Even a partnership, you can't do it. A regular partnership, both partners are exposed and the business. I don't recommend partnerships at all because they're too risky. The one partner goes out and does something and gets sued. Now everybody's exposed. Your home, you don't have to have anything to do with it. Your home, your assets are exposed, and their assets and the business, it's a mess. That's why you have entity setups. So does that answer your question in terms of protection?
So are there shelters, in other words, and I think maybe Henry is going to that, in ways he could take, money in? Are there other shelters that you would suggest to him to either expense out or to take, uh, money in?
Well,
Does it
he
make
can
sense?
he can pay himself a salary, but it's going to come right back because it's on the same return.
Right.
Remember, it's a flow through. He's single member, so I wouldn't say right. I wouldn't write it at W-2. I mean, it doesn't make any sense really, because it's the same. It's going to circulate again. Your net income is your net income. And you take your salary out, you still have to pay tax on it. You're still gonna include that as income. So you're not gonna get away from that tax wise. Now, liability wise, yes. Liability wise, he would protect himself as far as that. And you have something's called guaranteed payments. He could actually have a guaranteed amount and he paid himself, but it's called guaranteed payments. Desiree, you had a question?
So what is, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm finished. One second. Mr. Mitchell, did I answer your question?
So,
Yes, sir, you did. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, all right.
so what structure or business form would you suggest for a sole proprietor that's looking to, say, protect some assets? Or
Okay, depending on what you're doing. Now, what kind of business are you in?
real estate?
Real estate. Okay. Real estate, one thing you want to stay away from is an S corp, because the rules of an S corp, you only have one class of stock. A lot of real estate transactions will classify you as having two classes of stock, which would disqualify you in the S corp. For you, I would say LLC is fine. You can be a single member LLC, that's fine, or it can be a C corp. People, I don't know why they're afraid of C corps. C corps are really have the best tax shelters, because you can, and maybe I should go and explain the rules, Lakon, of each entity. A C corp is what it is. It's a corporation within itself. It's no flow through. It's like you and IBM, right? IBM is IBM, and you're you. So when you have a C corp, you're a stockholder. They buy stock in the corporation. You are no longer part of that C corp. It is not a part of you. It has its own separate income, its own separate expenses. It pays its own taxes. Now, people get afraid of the double taxation. Oh, I'm paying through tax. Wait a minute, though. C corp, they have the most tax shelters. So there's things you can do in a C corp you can't do in an LLC or an S corp or another entity. So it has the benefits. So with you can start with LLC, is fine. A lot of real estate people have LLC, which is fine. If you have different members or investors, that's fine as well. But remember, when you start getting above a certain income, that's when you start getting into a higher tax bracket. And you want to be careful with that. That's when you might want to say, you know what, I better do a C corp. Because see, here's what you do. I remember I had a client, husband and wife, own a lot of real estate, car dealership. And I think when they came to me, they were in Atlanta actually. They came to me and they had a humongous tax bill. And they were in an LLC. So I looked at their situation. I said, look, we'll get out of this LLC. I'm going to put you in a C corp. And I'm going to write you, I want you to do a W-2 for you and your wife. Go home, figure out what your budget is, how much you need to survive on. That's what we're going to W-2 you on. I think like 50,000 a piece, whatever it was at the time. So they paid themselves a salary. They paid tax on that amount of money. See, they control their taxation by being an employee. Hey, I want to pay myself 50,000. You pay tax on 50,000. I don't care if the corporation made $1 million. You're not going to pay that kind of personal tax. But when they're a corporation, they have a lot of write-offs. They had a car dealership, they had property, so they took advantage of depreciation. I mean, all the stuff that comes along with those kind of businesses. And I got their tax liability almost down to nothing because how we moved around how we changed the entity to benefit them and how we took all the write-off, because there's certain things you can't write off as a person. But if you're a corporation, C Corp, we can. There's things that I can do, their credits, their employer credits. There's a lot of different things. So you have to ask yourself, and it depends on your business. Not all businesses do well in certain entities. Real estate, like I said, I mean, I think LLCs are fine if that's what you're doing. But again, if you are elevating an income, remember, you're just going to hit your 1040, your personal taxes. And you might want to get into a different entity that's going to be more of a beneficial situation financially.
That was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was the one.
Okay, because you're always going to have. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're always going to have that protection, whether you're a C, S, LLC. That they do the automatic. That's why they're LLCs and C and S corps. But again, the taxation is what you got to be concerned with.
So
Okay.
since that is gonna you're able to separate the corporation from the individual.
Exactly.
So
Very
let's
easily.
say like you said, they were giving themselves like 50 grand a year. So on any type of paper, any type of document, that's what they make, 50,000.
Right. Remember, pretend like you're you and you work for IBM, right?
Right.
IBM is going to cut you with a W-2, and you'll pay tax on that amount of money that you make from IBM, right? IBM's income is not going to be on your tax return. It's a corporation by itself. It has its own tax return.
Right, and that's what I want. I want to
Right.
establish the business, but I want to separate myself from it.
Right. Now, I
So
think the
C
best
Corp
way
is the way.
I would recommend that.
So,
and
The
there's nothing wrong
income
with
level, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One quick question. Just what is the income level? Because you said once you reach a certain income level, you would really recommend a C Corp. What
Okay,
is
let me
that
just say,
income level?
for every 100,000 you make, you're going to pay about 20%. If you make 100,000, you're going to pay 20,000. Okay, that's roughly the rule. Of course, we got write-offs, so break that down further. But as a general rule, you're going to pay about 20,000 per 100,000. Okay, so if you're making 300,000, you're going to pay around. You may make the tax tables change. You may pay more than that. You may go to a 33% tax bracket. You may be paying more than that. So you may be paying 60,000, 70,000 in taxes. And see what happens is you can't control that tax liability being in a certain entity. You can't control it in the proprietorship. You can't control the LLC. You can't control it in the S Corp. C Corp, you can say, hey, I don't care if we make $10 million. I'm only going to pay myself 25,000. Well, that becomes your personal liability. Now, the corporation has to endure the millions of dollars, but it has a lot more write-offs. So you can do a lot of things with a corporation that you can't do in certain entities.
So can you clarify, because you said in real estate you're considered having two stock classes?
Right. That's only if you have an S Corp. The rules to an S Corp, you're only allowed to have, I think it's 100 members or shareholders, I should say, and you're only allowed to have one class of stock, which is common stock. There's certain transactions in real estate that may classify you as having two classes of stock. That would disqualify the S Corp. That's what I mean by that. So it just depends. I don't recommend S Corp real estate. It's too many rules. It's too tricky. If you're going to do that, if you're selling homes, you're making a lot of money selling homes, be in a C Corp. So if you're getting there, you're a big time agent, you're making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. You don't need to be anything but a C Corp. You know what I mean? Because you can't shelter that kind of money as an individual. So you have to be able to put yourself in the best entity.
Okay.
So this is why, and I ask everybody, understand why you're setting up an entity, why you're doing it. Not because it sounds good. Oh, I have an LLC. That sounds good, but it doesn't mean anything if you're in it for the wrong reason.
Mhm. Jerry, before we wrap down, could you talk a little bit about, you said you and your dad was talking about
Geopolitics. Oh
can you
man,
share
me
a
and
little
my,
bit with
my
us?
my father and I have been studying this stuff. Man, there's so much out here, man. Where should I start? My dad, you want to interject, Dad, you feel free. We don't. I'm still. We learn a lot of stuff. Geopolitics is what I call global politics. Right now,
And you could just
I'm not
whet our
sure.
appetite, just whet our
Okay,
appetite a little bit, but just want to know a little bit, bro.
America in particular is going through a big transition. Okay, you've got countries like China, Russia, Iran. A lot of these countries are now banding together. You guys heard of BRICS? New BRICS. That's the new currency, the
Yep.
new reserve currency that's China. It's just for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America. They started their own alliance for the currency. So now the rest of the world, except for the West, is now joining BRICS. In other words, they're going to use that as a reserve currency. Saudi Arabia recently is allowing countries to buy oil in their own currency. Before that was not the deal. It was only petrodollars, which was US dollar. So America right now, not just what's your appetite, is going through a transition down, the down spiraling right now. You're going to see a lot of inflation. This war with Russia, they try to weaken Russia, they sanction Russia, but look what happened to Russia. They got stronger. They made a hell of an alliance with China. China, Russia, they're in Africa now. Africa's getting ready to come up big time.
Big time.
They kicked the French out of there, man. The French have been pimping Africa for I don't know how long. Taking their gold, giving them nothing, not allowing them to be educated, not allowing them to develop. That's changing now. You got these young African leaders that are very proactive with their countries. So now the French got kicked out. I think Niger is kicking out. Dad man, he knows a lot about this. I think they're kicking out the West. In other words, the West is getting thrown out of that now. And now you got China, Russia, all these other countries, and now forming an alliance for the better. So we're coming into a multipolar world versus a unipolar world. The U.S. was controlling everything. They were just, all the sanctions, and I think this country is the only country has been at war for 30 or 40 years. And during that time, I don't know if you remember, Lakon, when I was 17, I remember China. They were poor, desolate country and all that stuff, and dusty and pushing a wagon. But look at China now, 40 years later. Oh my God. Look what they've accomplished. They got the biggest Navy in the world. The technology. I mean, you don't recognize China. I have a Chinese friend, we talk twice a week. And boy, we talk all kinds. She's over in Wuhan. That's who I study with. Amazing, man. Just what they have done as a country, man. And it's just, we're so far behind. Our education, our health. So right now, this country is starting to crumble. And you can see it. Our infrastructure, education. I've got a good friend of mine. He's a Nigerian prince, part of the UN. He tells me stuff that we're not privy to. You're not going to see it on CNN. You're not going to see it in MSNBC or Fox. Not going to see it. You go to a certain channel like YouTube. Me and my dad watch certain people on YouTube. These guys are just like the experts in all this stuff. And these are, you got to make sure you watch the right people tell the truth about what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
The war analysts, the financial analysts, economic analysts, all that stuff, economists. So geopolitics is real big. A lot of people are not privy to that, especially America. We're very naive. We're very uninformed. It's just, I'm amazed at what people don't know. I've got friends who are, in high levels, don't know what BRICS is or know what's called. I didn't know that. I have no idea. It's because we kept ignorant out of all this stuff.
That's right.
You don't know unless you go after it, unless you're looking for it, unless you know what to look for.
Yeah.
Like I said, my dad and I were talking, and that's why China is buying a lot of the gold, currency, dollars. We just print money. The peso's done very well against the dollar. So dollar's going down. I think we lost 12% on the dollar already. Some countries don't even take the dollar. I think Kenya stopped taking the dollar. Of course, Russia doesn't use the dollar anymore. China's dumping dollars. So everybody's de-dollarizing.
Big time.
So yeah, this stuff you have to be aware of. So being business people, you got to know which way to move and how to move.
There's been talk too that, in some of these other countries that there may be a resetting, a revaluation of sorts of currencies in different
Yes.
places, so we've
Yes,
been
of
watching
course.
this for a long time. It's taken a long time, but we're seeing a lot of these things come up, Cherry. So it's very true.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's going on. So you have to be aware. You got to be. It's more just living here. You have to be aware of what's happening. So
Jerry, what specific YouTube programmers would you recommend?
well, I got to give you certain names that I watch, and you can just go to YouTube and type them in. You want to write them down, or
Yes,
just tell you?
that's what I'm asking.
Okay,
A couple of
sure.
names.
Okay. One being Scott Ritter, and he was the weapons inspector over in Iraq. He's the one that Joe Biden scolded in his videos. Him scolding this guy because he told the truth. There were no weapons of mass destruction. So that is what that Scott Ritter, Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor, who was the war colonel over in Iraq. These guys are war analysts. Dr. Jeffrey Sachs is another one. Chaz Freeman. Let's see, Michael Hudson and John Winsheimer. Mearsheimer. John Mearsheimer. These guys are all just awesome experts. They're very celebrated, man. They're experts. I think Dr. Sachs was the advisor for 4 Russian presidents. I mean, these guys are not just talking heads. They actually know what they're talking about. So my father and I follow these guys religiously. We listen, we analyze. I would start with those that I just named on YouTube. You also go to Rumble. I think YouTube is starting to monitor YouTube. Is starting to really, starting to try to stop people from saying certain things. Trying to, limit it what they can say on YouTube. So when you go to Rumble, another show, Redacted. Redacted is very good.
I watched that.
Redacted.
Yes, sir.
Yes, a good show too. Redacted. Let's see what else I watch. Those are the main ones that I look for. And he may catch a few. Danny. What's Danny's last name?
Bang.
Hang. Was it that?
Danny Fong, I think.
Yeah, Danny Fong. Yeah, he's excellent. He's got a great show. Another show, Useful Idiots. Useful Idiots are a very good show. So you got a lot of different podcasts that speak on these things, and they all have actually the same guys on there. You're interviewing these guys, they're all really just telling it like it is. So I would start there.
It's wonderful.
Okay.
Wow, Jerry, what a wealth of information, brother. We just appreciate you so very much. I put your phone number in chat for Denisha and Henry that could, reach out, and we're going to be reaching out some things that we're doing. Are there any words of wisdom that your dad would like to offer us before we begin to shut it down?
Well, I think, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. I think Jerry is expressed it well. It's kind of hard to come behind my own son, but you really have to pay attention because things are happening so rapidly that we don't even really believe in what we're seeing. But what happened, the policymakers are very mediocre, and they made terrible mistakes, such as the sanctions, such as going to war with Ukraine, such as going into Gaza. They are destroying their own country. But this is an opportunity now for Africans going to rise, because they're breaking the chains of colonialism. Right. So you have to pay strict attention. They're predicting in another 40, 50 years, Africa is going to be booming, hopefully. China's going to rebuild all the infrastructure. Russia's there as well, and for protection, because they need protection. The CIA is going to try to overthrow governments. They're going to try to stage coups, but they now have protection, and they're having alliances, But see, Africa has a lot of energy resources that they can sell. They don't need to go to no bank. They've got the gold, they got the uranium. So they set up their own financial systems where they can pay for their growth. So these are things you have to pay attention to. And if you're in business, you have to pay attention because you're going to have high inflation. In other words, the dollar won't be able to buy much. It'll be so high, as you can see now, gas is going up. So they've lost control. But as Black people, we'll always survive. You can't stop Black people. We've been through, as you know, being Black, we've been through it all, period. We'll find a way to survive. They won't be able to survive because they've had everything handed to them. They're used to being privileged, being first. So they don't have the tools, what it takes to survive. Of course, we got our, people who are on drugs and psychiatry. We'll lose maybe 1 million. But that's not everybody. And so I would look forward to start getting passports in Africa, go to Kenya, go to Ghana, go to Senegal. They're going to give out free passports. Just have them. You never know. It's not for us so much. It's for your children, grandkids, and great-grandchildren. This is how you have to think. You have to think 30 and 40 years ahead. So what you do now will prepare your siblings and children for the future, and they'll be set up because we actually, I guess you could say we're Black Anglo-Saxons because this is the only culture that we know. This is who we are. We had to survive. So it's just be aware and pay attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Is my mom still on here?
No, her phone, she tried to come back on. I think her phone may have fell off. It might be connection. Okay. She had tried to come back on and then it fell off again.
Okay.
Jerry, any parting words from you before we get ready to shut it down?
Wow.
This is powerful, brother. And
well,
I'll you too. I'm gonna send you a copy.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Also, my mom was on. My mom has so much wisdom as well, too. I mean, she can tell you a lot of stuff. And, hang on 1 second. Give me 1 second, late time.
Sure. Wow, this is great. So yeah, you guys, if you ever have questions about whatever, Jerry's just a great person. He's always available. Well, he's always willing. I mean, he's busy. I can't say he's always available. He's super busy, but if you can catch him, he answers questions. I mean, he's just a great source of information. I sent him a few clients, but my cousin who transferred all of his assets from New York and down here and just sent him, I got him, I don't know, three quads and a duplex, couple of single family homes. So, I told him Jerry's the guy, and he's just super, super happy with Jerry. No issues, clean, and so he said, Jerry's my guy. I said, yes, sir.
I think my mom is on now. I think she unmute her mic. I think she she can say something. She has a lot of wisdom. She can tell you a lot of stuff, man, as well. So
is she on? I don't see it.
She said she was on. I don't know what happened.
Maybe she tell her.
I don't know.
Yeah, tell her phone did. She came on for a second, then it fell off again.
Okay, that's okay. She doesn't know what's going on with the phone. Yeah,
but
yeah,
please give her our regards and love, man. We appreciate both your parents.
Definitely. That's why I wanted them on here because, they were and still are a major part of my life. And I always tell them they don't believe me, but still, that's where it all started from. And it still continues. But my words are, I guess I would say, we're going through a transformative time right now. And, you have to have multiple, right? Especially entrepreneurs, you got to have multiple streams of income. Whether it be real estate or something else, what have you, that's very important that you do. Pay attention to, like my dad was saying, geopolitics. Africa is going to be, like I said, if I talk to my friend Nigerian Prince, he said 7 years, Africa will be completely free of the Western hegemony. About 7 years. Oh, I know what he was saying too. Yesterday, he told me they're going to have, they're all joining armies now. Because Africa has 1.4 billion people in that continent. That's enough for 25 armies. So what they're doing with Russia and China is every country is going to have their own army. But there are certain countries that control a region, north, south, east, west. So they're all going to be one big alliance.
Right.
So that's what's happening now. They're starting to form those alliances and so forth. And my mom says she's back on. But anyway,
she was on. She was on just for a second. It keeps dropping off.
Okay. Okay, no, what's going. Okay. But anyway, that's what I would say. So, focus, be disciplined. Focus on what you're doing. Master your craft. You're going to be a master at whatever your real estate or your business or so forth. Be very learned in those. Be masterful. It takes work. You got to keep working hard. Work hard, play hard, focus. There's a good thing I was watching on YouTube called The Power of Concentration by Thurman DuPont. You might want to watch that ebook. Excellent food for thought.
All right, so Jerry, I'm gonna put you on the spot, man. Give me a little bit of Russian before we go, bro.
Добрый день, как дела? Как вас зовут? Как вас зовут, Jerry? Очень приятно.
Go ahead, switch up to a little bit of Spanish.
Hola, ¿cómo estás, mi amigo? Yo soy muy contento para verte. Gracias para tu invitación aquí con sus amigos.
Crazy. I think we have right before we depart. Mrs. Cordett, would you mind leaving us with a few words of wisdom, please?
With me or my wife?
Your wife. I think she's here now.
Mom, you there?
Yeah, I'm asking her to
back
unmute.
on. I asked her to unmute, but
Okay, she's trying to unmute.
Unmute, Lakon. You can't unmute her.
Yeah, we just asked her to unmute. She has to unmute.
do it herself.
She was having some challenges. She can probably hear her. We're asking her. She might have to push a button on the phone or something, or whatever she's on.
Mom, can you hear us? Unmute.
I'm sure she's trying.
Know what's going on.
We're in the world of computers, these things. Okay, here she is.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Yay.
Say a few words of wisdom before we go.
Okay. Yeah, right. It was just my pleasure to hear my son. It was just knowledge personified. And Jerry, we've always told him to read because it is the source of knowledge, and think. It is the foundation of wisdom. And he has done that very well. I have enjoyed it. And those are the words I've had to say. And it was very exuberating to hear my son. Thank you.
All praise.
Wonderful. And congratulations to you for raising, you and your husband for raising such a fantastic son. You should be very proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. It was right at 8:28. Listen, I want to wish everyone a great evening. I have a copy. Jerry, you'll be able to share with your folks. Just give me about a day. I got to, trim it down on this other app that I have, and I'll send you a copy. But thank you, folks, so very much. Jerry, it's an honor, and we'll be knocking on your door soon, man, because we're into a few things. So, and if you need a fireman, call Jerry.
Right. Okay. All right. It's good to see everybody. Nice meeting everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said to everybody, hope I helped. Hope we help. Help whatever. Thank you.